Jamel Gilliam. My husband, a father, a Baltimore native, see if I can remember it, a former social worker, practicing chaplain.
That's enough. I don't hide from my accomplishments. Definitely did the work, and I don't, take that for granted because I know that I didn't do it alone. I've had folks who supported me through the years. My mom, my aunts, my wife, even my children, whether they know or not, and just folks that aren't related to me. Just some of the things when sometimes folks think that you're giving to them, they're actually giving to you. And Brother Freddie, I just want to say this because when you talked about being an atheist, I'm never offended when folks say that they're atheists because oftentimes the folks that I've spoken to that have said that they're atheists, it's about humanity and not the dogma that we sometimes misuse through religion. So I get it. I really do. My wife, after service, can talk about a time I spoke in Colombia and an atheist kid wanted to confront me. You remember that? So, right, so thank you. As always, I have a story. And, see, it's working earlier, okay. Anyway, I'm gonna tell the story. I'm not gonna let this stop me. So the story goes like this. Everybody familiar with the Ham story? The Ham story. My wife told it. I heard it before. There's different variations of it. So a young lady, we're talking about Easter. It's Easter time, and we know there are black families sometimes, and some of you may not, maybe you don't eat it anymore. I don't eat ham anymore, but I can recall in my family having ham. So a young lady watched her mom cut off the ends of a ham before putting it in a pan and putting the ham in the oven. So she stood there and she said, "Mom, why do you cut off both of the ends of the ham before you put it in the oven?" And the mom said, "Well, I'm not sure. My mom did it. I think she cuts them off so that it'll soak up all the juice and the flavor." She said, "Okay." She said, "But you may want to ask my mother, your grandmother." So the little girl goes to her grandmother and says, "Grandma, I noticed Mom was making ham and she cut off the ends of both the ham, cut off both the ends, and before she put it in a pan and then put it in the oven." She said, "Well, I'm not sure either. I think, because my mom taught me, I think it's because she wanted to soak up the juices and the flavor before putting it in the oven." But my mom, your great-grandmom, would be able to answer this question best because I learned it from her. So the little girl goes to her great-grandmom, and that's a blessing to have the great-grandmom there, alive and available to tell the stories. So she goes to the great-grandmother, and says, "Great-grandmom, I noticed that my mom was making ham and she cut off both ends, and my grandmother, your daughter, had cut off both ends of the ham before they put it in the oven, and I was told that it was because it was to soak up the flavor." So the grandmother looked and smiled and said, "Dear, actually, I did it because I didn't have a pan big enough. So I cut off both ends so it would fit into the pan that I had," and that's what we know now. So what does that story mean? That story talks a lot about how we always do things. And the way we do things is because of how we've taught. As a matter of fact, going to seminary, a big part of seminary is learning the things that your professors were taught and what they were taught and what they were taught. So we are essentially passing down, and I'm not being I guess someone would say I'm blaspheming. I'm not being anti-religion or anti-formal instruction. What I am saying is that oftentimes we continue the same stories because it's easier. To do something different takes effort. So this particular monthly theme, and for some reason, I guess I'm not supposed to do this. This particular monthly theme is about, see the hand? This monthly theme is about how we've never done it and changing. And so, what a wonderful time. Easter talked about Ramadan. I know that Easter's coming. Someone was talking the other day about why is Easter and even Ramadan for that matter, and why is it on the same day? And I won't get into because I don't want to offend folks as it relates to their religious beliefs, but it's based on a lunar calendar. It's based on the astrological calendar of what's happening up there beyond the stars, whether it be the phases of the sun, the moon, all those things demonstrate what is the first day of spring, what is the first day of Easter, what is the day of Easter, all those things. I'm not here to dispel anybody's religious beliefs. What I am here to say is that we should pay attention to that because, like I said before, we have a tendency to pass down the same stories. I'm not saying there's some wonderful stories that we have from our families of origin. Continue to share them with your children and your great-grandchildren. But I'm here to say that we could do things differently if it's available to us. So that's how we've never done it, is a perfect demonstration for a monthly theme. We look around, it's Easter coming at the end of this month. It's Palm Sunday, Easter, Ramadan. There's a few other holidays in the interfaith traditions that are coming. And so we should acknowledge that they are here and people hold them sacred. So we're not here to offend. So I'm going to start off with definitions because I sometimes can use words and folks are looking at me like, what, who, how, why? Definitions. Innovation. Something new or different is introduced. All right, that's a big deal because innovation is something, that way you're not doing the same thing. You're opening the doors to something. The funny thing about innovation is that if you think about some of the craziest things that we do, like a cell phone or computers, someone had the idea and now we know it as being commonplace. I can't imagine, my children can't imagine a life without cell phones. I know if for those of you who have teenagers, if you ever want to hold them accountable, he's shaking his head. I can't. Take the cell phone. But it'll be something different by the time he's up there. But take the cell phone, you'll be surprised at the response. I think my daughter threatened one time that she was sick and wasn't going to school. I said, okay, well, since you're not feeling well, we'll let you stay home. But, leave the cell phone because you're not going to need it because you don't feel well. That was the fastest healing I've ever seen. She was dressed and she picked up her stuff and she grabbed the phone and she was off to school. I said, I'm onto something there. Right? And she's graduating from college in 2 months, so she's come a long way. Creativity. I'm not going to read this whole thing. The ability to transcend traditional ideas, rules, patterns, relationships, or the like, and then I go into to create meaningful new ideas. So that's something to think about. Creativity is what has driven us in the society of having wonderful things. Choice. An abundance of variety from which to choose. Change. To make the form, nature, content, and future course. So basically, you're moving things. You're making it something else. So why do I bring this up? Neville Goddard says, rebirth depends on inner work of oneself. No one can be reborn without changing this self. I want you to think about that. Because we hear a lot about people being born again and being reborn. There's a lot of information that religious communities share with people. I'm concerned about it because I love to hear it, but the behavior is oftentimes the sign that something is really working. We could say a whole lot. We could say, and as Krista was sharing the story about me with the television, I had actually forgotten about that because that was early on in our marriage. I think Freddie heard me. I said, I'm a real person. I get mad. We're not here to give this message of all is great, and that's fine if you want to say that, but how is it demonstrating in your life? How are you working at it? What are you doing? If you have a setback, how did you get through it? That is the thing that pull people in. We want folks to grow from this ministry. Anytime that an entirely new set of reactions enter a person's life, a change of consciousness has taken place. A spiritual rebirth has occurred. So we talk a lot about changing consciousness. We talk about Christ consciousness. Let's breathe that in, because oftentimes we oftentimes live in this society with human conditions, whether it be employment, whether it be bills, whether it be relationships. What are some other things that stress us out? Purpose, why am I here? What am I here to do? Kids. Children, And the truth is, children are going to do what they want to do. You may think that you have it under control. They're going to remind you. And it's not a bad thing. I just think that, life-changing event that I could imagine as being a parent. I mean, being a husband is probably number two, but being a father or a mother is like one of the most life, because you have to show and prove, as the kids said. The kids will tell you, yeah, you said that, but you didn't do. You promised, right? That's the thing, right? Am I hit a nerve? So Neville Goddard says, we're going to keep talking about consciousness changing. Yala Mazay, anybody like her? Yeah, I like her. I don't like her as a counselor, though. I think she's a great minister. She shouldn't be doing therapy. Her only technique, and this is me as a therapist, is confrontation. Like, if everything is confrontation, like, wow, man, you gonna confront me? I just asked you what time it was. Beloved. No matter how terrible we think we are, how bad we believe we have been, how low we have fallen, we can clean out our minds and begin again. The only way out is truth. Well, let's think about that. Because I think sometimes we live in a society where we've been guilted so bad, shamed so bad. Like, you're the low of the low of the low. No. I can wake up and become new. I'm not saying that you just, 11:59, you was raising double, HE double hockey stick, and in the next minute, you're like, what I'm saying, give yourself some time, really set in the pattern of changing behaviors. But think about that. We're not here to shame you. Who are you? Who are you here? What is your truth? You hear that all the time. What is your truth? And some of us are realizing that as time goes on. Some of us never realize it until we get older. Some of us, when we think back, we become who we're supposed to be. I'll share a story real quick, and this wasn't planned. I took the ASVAB for the military. My son is kind of contemplating military. I did the military. Chuck remembers when I went in. One of the jobs was chaplain assistant. One of the jobs. I didn't take it. I was like, I'm a chaplain. Please. I love being a chaplain. But at 17, I couldn't fathom the idea. So I always say, Spirit or God, or whoever you want to call him, her, saw dead. But I had to go through a whole world of other stuff, whether it be just working at jobs that underpaid me, a couple of jobs burned me and didn't pay me, just different things that I had to go through to kind of grow into what I'm at. This isn't destination. I think there's so much more that's coming. I was sharing with Martha, Krista and I can't wait for retirement. We can't wait. Like, I think the money is already spent. Right? It's already planned. When I met her, I don't know if you remember, we talked about getting a bed breakfast or something on an island. We talked about it. We talked about having a bed breakfast. I don't know if you remember that conversation. And we're actually going back to New Orleans. I think it's this month. Yeah, in a few weeks. We're going back to New Orleans where we met. But that was like our first conversation on the French Quarter, having beignets and coffee. And did we walk the strip? I don't think we walked. I didn't get no beads. I don't know if you guys know about New Orleans and the beads. We didn't get any beads. But we had a great time talking, right? That was 18 years ago, or something like that. My son's laughing at me. Anyway, I digress. It is important that we do not forget our truth. Understanding that you can begin again, that you can step out of whatever stagnation that you feel there has come. Some of us get depressed. As a therapist, I would be lying if I said, I remember having conversations with clients, and oftentimes I served men, and some of the brothers would just be beat up, just by life, whether it be, like I said, relationship, money, employment, and I would have to share with them that you can begin again. And I would say it in other ways that they would hear it, but just to let them know that life has not ended for you, that you can grow. Spiritual authority. Ernest Holmes says, prepare your mind to receive the best that life has to offer. Now, Ernest Holmes is the founder of the Centers for Spiritual, what we now know to be Centers for Spiritual Living. Prepare your mind to receive the best that life has to offer. Act as if. Prepare yourself. There's some things that we can do differently. We don't have to say, oh, well, I want a new house, but you're not saving any money. You're not going to work. You're not researching what deals you can get. Like, those are things you can actually do to get the money. I mean, I think when we were buying our house, they were like saying, oh, first-time home buyers is $20,000, whatever. It was some amount. I don't think we were both from, we weren't first-time home buyers, but we did tap into some funds, and I can't remember what it was called. But not doing that research, not preparing, not getting ready for the life, like just saying to yourself, so I'm going to say the opposite. Stop deciding that your life is over, because there's so much more to come. Your decision, you decide. I talked about choice. You are making the decision. Life doesn't end. Life is not just something to be endured, it's to be lived in joy, in the fullness, and without limit. And this is from Discover a Richer Life, also Ernest Holmes. We're going, for the next 3 months, we're doing a training, a conference. We're doing a funeral, but I'm sure we'll have some good times there. Rejoining family, and we're doing a graduation. This is the next 3 months. I plan on enjoying myself. I hope that you make time for yourselves, whether it be the weekend, however your schedule. Everybody's schedule here is differently, but having dinner with those folks that are special, making memories. Sometimes just being with yourself, sharing what you need to share in your moments. Also, I didn't talk about this. We talk a lot about shadow work here. Shadow work is interesting because I want to paraphrase Martin Luther King when he talks about the measure of a man is not who he is in public, but who he is when no one sees him. It's something like that. I may be misquoting, but it's something like that, to that effect. And I say that because this isn't about who we are in public. I mean, I don't have like this, oh yeah, I mean, did I float on the cloud this morning? Was I floating on the cloud? You said I did. I go to work, I take a shower, like I'm taking out the trash, I'm fussing at him about taking out trash. We have a normal family life. Like we have, you know, we take him to dinner. Like, so we have those moments, but be honest about who you are when nobody's watching. Now, when nobody's watching, she's watching her shows. I'm downstairs in the basement either reading, working on my dissertation, but probably not as much as I should, and watching, like, she likes to make fun of me because I watch old shows. I watch old shows. I watch like The Game or just old 90s and early 2000 shows. But that's just kind of my thing. I don't really want to watch some of these sisters angry, yelling at each other. I mean, you know, yeah, they are rich, yeah. We're going to have the Housewives of Baltimore. We're going to get you on that. But we do use heroin, that is important. But my point is, who are you? I'm not like downstairs on the porn sites or something, right? And I say that, and Quinn looked back at me, because I think there was a minister or someone, a singer, I'm going to say his name, that was kind of like his thing. And I say that not to attack him or judge him. I say it because we have to be really clear about who we say we are and what is. Now, I don't know his marital situation. I know marriage is work, so I'm not here to judge that either. But I think the public shamed him. Like, oh, you're supposed to be Reverend Dr. Deacon so-and-so, and you out here on you guys, I'm not going to say his name, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about, right? You out here on the channels. Just be mindful of that. Shadow work is confronting that, talking about that, knowing what it is, not saying, oh, I didn't know that I was a shoplifter. You knew that you were a shoplifter. I didn't know, right? Those are the things we have to be mindful of. So just being mindful of that, doing that shadow work. What does Scripture says about this? I always like to use a reference from the Bible, any holy book. So Romans 12:1-2 says, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable, perfect will of God. Be ye transformed by the renewing of the mind. That's important to know. We're not stuck. We are in movement. We are in motion. There's opportunity there for us to expand. I do an exercise, I haven't done it in a while. I do an exercise where we take a rubber band. Anybody ever do the rubber band exercise? And most folks, when you pull a rubber band, they're like, oh, it's going to break. And the rubber band will open like this wide. Sometimes, depending on the rubber band, how old it is, But my point is, we play it safe. We stay within that. We need to stop staying within that circumference. Now, I'm not saying be so irresponsible where you're ruining your family and your personal finances and some of your responsibilities. I'm saying stretch out there. If you haven't been on a vacation, start with the weekend. When is our next 3-day weekend? Probably Easter, right? Go on a vacation. We want to see, we're going to try to live stream by then, hopefully. But do a vacation. If you haven't done anybody ever gone to dinner by themselves? Some people don't. Okay, good. So there are people that are afraid to do that. But then I can eat what I want. I don't have a group of hecklers saying, hey, you're not supposed to be eating that day. Not that I'm eating. but I can eat what I want. Like if I want to go to Land of Kush or something, I can do that. I've done that. Right? So I'm just throwing it out there. There's so many other things that we could think about that we can do alone. But be willing to renew your mind. Applications, all right. This isn't for you guys to ask questions. This is for you to say to yourself, question. I started out with the story about the hams, right? And the young lady, children are beautiful because they are so, inquisitive. Like, why do you do that? I don't know, it'll be interesting when he starts saying, why? You'll be like, and you probably gonna say, ask your dad. Ask your dad. Your dad's a smart guy, ask your dad. Because everything is why. Why is the sky blue? Oh, because why? And that's fine. I remember this one doing it. The other one did it as well. I love that. That's a wonderful age where they're inquisitive. Return to that as human beings, as adults. Question. You'd be surprised when you question things, the answers that you get. And I'm not asking you to do it out of spite or any malicious intent, but question. Question. What is, why does, how do, there's so many forms of questioning. Why, what, who? Pray. I'm going to share this with you. A Course in Miracles is a wonderful additional resource that we use here. And I probably should have bought a copy so you guys could see. I'll share that story later about how that came to be, but it's called A Course in Miracles. In a nutshell, the writer channeled Christ consciousness. She was, am I getting that right, Martha? Because I know that you were. She channeled her inner Christ. And I don't know if the story is true. I'm not here to question that. There's a lot of things we can ask if it's true, but I think that particular dogma, in my opinion, teaches us forgiveness. It teaches us unconditional love. And it teaches us to look at things a little bit differently than the conditions that we experience here. So sometimes we become victims and we become, oh, this is happening. She says, prayer is the greatest gift with which God blessed his son at his creation. Right? However you believe creation to be. Jesus did pray. He talked about prayer. And guess who else can pray? So can you. So prayer is an opportunity to give to yourself and share and contemplate the moments that are most precious. I oftentimes will start a prayer with go to the place that's most sacred to you. Because that's important that we know that there's an opportunity to be still. Have you ever met anyone that they're always busy? They're always busy. Like, I'm busy. And they say, I'm busy. We're all busy. The truth is, there's 24 hours in a day. We all get the same 24 hours. We all find different things that we do. One day I was on my cell phone, and my wife and I, we sometimes will be on our phones, scrolling. I'll post. Those are times when I tend to post the be love things or, whatever. I try to do that. But when you look up, it's like an hour has passed by. 2 hours. I don't have time to, I could have been working out for an hour. I could have been writing about, some other things. I could have been grading some papers. I could have been reading. Like, be mindful of that. But it's important that we are available and open to the time that is there for us. So prayer is one thing I'm suggesting. Right? So question, pray, meditation. We did a visioning last week? Yeah. Last week. And a couple of some of the feedback that I had gotten back was that, and we did it with sound. Sometimes it's done without sound. But the beautiful thing about meditation is a stillness. if you pay attention, your vibration, like I'm moving a little bit, right? But if I was to sit down, anybody ever spin? This is the best example. Anybody ever spin around? Like you remember you little, you would just spin around, right? Imagine spinning around is representative of just your flow of life, right? And then you just sit. What do you feel? You feel your own stillness, right? You feel your stillness, and the world is still moving. But the stillness is something that is important because then you understand, guess what? I can be at peace because I am still, I'm not moving, I'm feeling, I'm noticing things. You notice a whole lot when you're still, when you're present. So that's important. Meditation is an opportunity to be present and available. Demonstrate. Not only are we saying all these things about praying and meditating and these things, like show up. Like show up. I said I wanted to do this. I said I could do this. I said I'm able to do this. I want to do something differently. Just do it. Even if you don't think that you're 100% good at it. I think the worst thing that we as human beings do to ourselves is we decide that if it ain't going to be perfect, I ain't going to do it. I would love to say that that's the way to look at things. But the truth is, if you don't just start showing up, your practice is in your motion. Your practice is in emotion. We go to the doctor. Most of us, everybody here go to the doctor, right? We go to doctors in some way, fashion, or form. Doctors practice medicine. They're not perfecting it. They practice it. I've sat hundreds of thousands of times with doctors, psychiatrists, medical doctors. Well, let's try. They don't know. They don't know. I'm not telling you guys not to go to doctors. But I'm telling you, some of these guys, and they're human beings just like us, let's try, and they'll give you a prescription. They don't know. Now, sometimes it works, sometimes it's backfire, sometimes I've said, I'm not taking it. I remember saying to a doctor, that's going to make me whatever it does. And she's like, well, let's try it anyway. Yeah, all right. Right? In the trash it goes. I don't even think I've gone back to her since. Yeah. So, but demonstration. Step out. What's that old, some of you guys, I'm dating myself now, that was one of those Easter cartoons that used to come on and said, put one foot in front of the other, and say you'll be walking out the door. Remember that? I remember that. One of those Easter specials.
That was the Us.
It was ours?
That was the Us.
Okay, I think it was another one too. In fact, the Abominable Snowman.
It was Frosty the Snowman.
Frosty the Snowman, my man. Put one foot in front of the other. Frosty don't like Easter, no, because he ain't here. But that's what it was. They were teaching the Abominable Snowman how to walk. Live, and they cut it off. It says, live life to the fullest. Live. Like live. Like, you know what's funny? There are people that I sit with that are like, they've been given a chronic fatal disease, and then they often, always, I get a list of, I wish I could have fill in the blank. That is the most saddening thing. The level of regret of not living, just living. It looks different for each one in here, but living, like being able to just say, I always wanted to drive a stick shift, and then when I graduated from Dell State, and my father tried to talk me out of it, I bought a stick shift. Now, if anybody's ever driven with someone who's never driven a stick shift before, you're gonna do a lot of that. You're gonna do a lot of jerking, and I did it for a while. And even going in reverse is hard because you gotta like catch that clutch, and you know it was just funny. Like I remember one time, I think I had to get one of my friends, one of the friends, he knows him too, to like just back it up. I can't get out of this parking spot because I was about to hit that thing because I was parking forward. And I think I scraped up the bottom, but yeah. But just live, like don't be afraid. Get out there, do those things. Do those things that you always wanted to. Anybody, let's say this. Let's do exercise. And I'm not taking note, but I'm going to complete the sentence. Always wanted to.
Go to California.
I want to learn how to ski. All right. Anybody else? Did you say one, Mr. No? There's no one thing I always wanted to. I heard California. No, all of those are realistic. Those are available. All of them are real estate. I mean, with the exception of having the money. But you probably can find somebody. I got something to tell you too after the service about getting $2,000 for you. I'll talk to you later. But there's money available. it's going to be some commitment, but I'll talk to you after this. But there's an opportunity there. I mean, if money is your only challenge, right? California, Ghana. Did anybody say anything over here? I heard what you say. But go for it. Did you say something, Freddie? Quick. You just living it right. You living right now. Did you say something?
You know what? I would love to perform at a stadium. Wow.
So that's big.
Yeah.
That's living. And if anybody has seen him perform, because he performs around the Baltimore City local venues, great performer. Beatbox, rapper, poet, DJ. Am I catching everything? Yeah.
There's a list.
There is a list. And those are the things I know. Everybody says some other stuff I don't know about, right? Love. And so we're here at Be Love. We talk about loving, smiling, embracing. We're all trying to figure this thing out. None of this is perfect. None of us are perfect. We're just perfectly imperfect, learning 1 hour journey, just in the flow of life, right? In the flow of life. None of us deserve to be shamed, guilted, disrespected, mistreated. We all should be able to live our lives. As long as you're not hurting other people, I'm not here to stop you from doing anything. And even if you are doing, I may say, well, maybe I don't want to hear that, or I don't want to be a part of that. But definitely, we are here trying to figure this thing out. And that's what we're here doing. All right, so the major points, so I said love. I said live, I'm going backwards. Demonstrate, meditate, pray, question. These are wonderful things that we should absolutely be ready to work through, right? In order to have a wonderful life. Like I said, we're in a time where Easter is coming, spring is coming. So you start seeing things like the trees are starting to bud. The flowers, I think I saw the lady across the alley from us, what are tulips? They're starting to bud, so they're blossoming. Which is a perfect opportunity. I always wondered why they didn't make Christmas like when it got warm outside. I think for some reason people want to have snow, but it would have been wonderful to say, hey, this is the renewing of the time. Let's just, even if they just took artistic license and changed it to spring. Because it's the coming of a new day, a new time. Instead, I guess in reverse, they made it about a resurrection and a death. We'll talk, between Issa and myself, we'll talk about that too. But we're in a time where the earth is coming alive again. Flowers are blooming. The sun is at a different angle than it was in the winter. And I think it's actually further, but it's shining directly, whereas during the winter it's closer, but the angle is not directly on us. Call to action. All right, what are you willing to do? Say this to yourself. What am I willing to do? As we talk about, this is how we've never done it. What am I willing to do? That's a wonderful question. What is your readiness to change? Getting yourself ready. Whether it includes the prayer, whether it includes the meditation, whether it includes all those wonderful things that we talked about, those are the things that we should think about. Does what you say you want or need coincide with your current behaviors? I'm a rich man, but I ain't saving no money. I'm not going to work. I'm just, Krista come downstairs, I'm sitting on the couch, eating a donut, saying, have a good day at work, ma'am. Am I going to be a rich man? No. Yeah. And a fat man. Right? I mean, that happens. Out of shape. That happens. So that's definitely something to think about. That is my call to action. So I want to end right there. I think I went a little bit too far. What are you willing to do? What is your readiness to change? And does what you say you want or need coincide with your current behavior? So with that, I'm going to end with a prayer. in that most sacred place that we know it is comfortable, it is holy, it is ours and ours alone. We know that this space is a place where we live in our thoughts, but we move on our actions. We know that during this time, God is reminding us that He, she, it has always been with us. And we do not turn away from that. We receive the blessings that they come, whether in the form of others, whether they come in the form of our actions, our rituals, our daily practices, whether they come in the form of our own personal inquiry. We know that God is continuously reaching out and embracing us. So we accept this as our truth. We know that how things have been done are not how they're supposed to be. There are always opportunities and room for expansion. And we know because this is true for the world, this is also true for us. I simply release these words into the law, knowing that simultaneously my release is also a receiving. My release is also a receiving. I'm so thankful for this knowing this. I end this prayer by saying, Amen. Ashe. So it is.